Chapter 15 discusses extremity injuries. There's a lot in this chapter. Again, these videos are just going to be a brief overview or outline of the chapter. You want to be sure that you are really looking at the textbook and reading it to make sure you understand what to do for all of these type of injuries. Any injury to extremity happens because of usually some type of a physical activity. So people with extremely active lifestyles tend to get injured more frequently. You want to look for signs and symptoms of fractures and dislocations using DOTS and CSM mnemonics that we've learned in the past. There's contusions, strains, sprains, and tendonitis. And contusions are bruises, strains or where the muscles are stretched or torn, and sprains are tearing or stretching of a joint. Tendonitis is the inflammation of a tendon. There's also a dislocation where bones are displaced from their joint alignment or fractures where they're actually broken. The Rice procedure we've already discussed includes rest, ice, compression, and elevation, and that is recommended immediately after an injury. The first 48 to 72 hours can do a lot to relieve and prevent aches and pains. So R is rest, don't move the part. Ice, apply 20 minutes every 3 to 4 hours in the first 48 hours, and don't apply it directly to the skin. Compress with an elastic bandage, and it should be worn for the first 18 to 24 hours. Elevation, don't elevate a suspected fracture until it's been stabilized. Let's talk about shoulder dislocation. You want to look for if the arm cannot be brought across the chest, if there's pain, if there's loss of function, if there's a history, or there's numbness. What should you do for a shoulder location? Place a folded or rolled blanket under between the upper arm and the chest. Apply a sling and apply ice and seek medical care. Don't try to push or force that shoulder back into place. With a clavicle fracture, it could be from a direct blow, or what you'll see is a severe pain in the injured area. Maybe the person has fallen on an outstretched arm. They're holding the injured arm against their chest, or they have no movement. This might be swelling, deformity, tenderness, a dropped shoulder, and bruising. Treat for shock, apply an arm sling, apply ice, and seek medical care. With contusions, you might have swelling, pain at the site, firmness when pressed, tenderness, and discoloration. Apply ice and place the arm in a sling. Tendonitis is constant pain or, pain with motion, and you can have a limited movement. There's a crackling sound and tenderness over the area. Try an ice massage for 10 minutes before and after exercise. Use a sling. You can use pain medication and seek medical advice. With a humerus fracture of the bone in the upper arm, it could be from a direct blow to the area or a twist or fall on the outstretched arm. There's severe pain, swelling, deformity, tenderness, inability to move, or the person might be holding the arm against the chest. Assess and treat for shock, apply ice, stabilize the arm, and seek medical care. With elbow injuries, they could be very serious, so you have to treat with care. There might be immediate swelling, pain, deformity, restricted motion, and numbness. Don't move the elbow, treat for shock, splint it, apply ice, seek medical care. Tennis elbow is a name given to a tendonitis in the elbow, which can occur from tennis, but it can occur from other things. It's a repetitive motion, and there's pain that, occurs while using the arm. Usually the grip becomes weak, and it's very tender. Apply heat before an activity, ice after an activity, and seek medical advice. Golfer's elbow is similar to tennis elbow, and same thing, you want to apply heat before the activity and apply ice after, and also seek medical advice. With the radius and ulnar, you can have fractures in these two bones in the forearm. When one bone is broken, the other acts as a splint, but when both are broken, usually you'll see some kind of deformity. There's pain in the forearm or wrist, and it can radiate up and down, and there's the inability to move the wrist. You need to assess and treat for shock. If indicated, apply ice, stabilize against motion, place in a sling, and seek medical care. With a wrist fracture, it could be a snapping or popping sensation, pain with movement, tenderness, swelling, inability to move the wrist, and a lump-like deformity. Use the Rice procedure, splint it, and seek medical care. Hand injuries. A hand may be fractured by a direct blow or crushing injury. A crushed hand will have pain, swelling, loss of motion, open wounds, and broken bones. Control the bleeding, cover with a dressing, apply ice, and seek medical care. Finger injuries can occur in the three bones that make up each finger, and they have three joints: distal, proximal, and metacarpal, and any of them can be broken. Look for deformity, immediate pain, hurts with or without movement. There's numbness, swelling, and tenderness. You can do a finger fracture test, straighten the fingers in place on the hard surface, or tap the tip of the injured finger toward the hand. Pain lower down in the finger or into the hand can indicate a fracture. Do not try to realign, apply ice, splint, and seek medical care. With dislocations of a finger, there's a deformity, pain, swelling, shortening of the finger, and unable to bend it. Don't try to realign it, apply ice, splinter the finger, and seek medical care. With a sprained finger, it could be that the finger or thumb was jammed or compressed, stepped on, or forced sideways. Pain and swelling will appear, inability to make a fist, and weakness in the finger. Apply ice, reevaluate, and buddy tape the fingers. You can tape two fingers together, and that will act as a splint. With a nail avulsion, it can be completely detached or held in place by the skin. Secure the damaged nail in place with a bandage. Do not trim any loose nail, and consult a physician. So that is the end of part 1, and we will continue in part 2 with some more extremity injuries.